I have so many different USB Type-C cables, it's ridiculous. And the sad thing is, this is only a fraction of them. And I'm sure there are some of you out there that have the same situation. The problem is there's no standard for USB cables. Each one of these cables has a different set of specs. Some can transfer data in the gigabits per second range, and some can only do megabits. Some support video, and some don't. Most of the time you can't even tell just by looking at the cable what it actually supports. Now you could spend hours testing each cable and then putting labels on everything, or you could just get the AOHI Adonis USB 4 2.0 cable and save yourself a lot of grief. This one cable does everything you could ever want from a USB Type-C cable, and it's future-proofed. I've been using AOHI's Lightning USB-C cable set for the past 1.5 years, and it's held up really well. I use it on my desk to charge up all my devices, and it has no signs of wear at all. That's probably because of all the quality parts that they use to actually make the cable, and I've also done a review on that cable, and I'm sure you've seen that cable used in many of my past videos. Anyway, back to the Adonis. If you're looking to transfer data, this cable can transfer up to 120 gigabits per second. It also supports Thunderbolt 5. It's got support for 6K and 8K displays. You can use it with AR and VR glasses and headset. It also supports 240 watts for super power delivery. It uses 16-core coaxial cable. I'll also be testing out this cable with the AOHI Magcube Pro. It's a 140 watt GAN wall adapter that supports fast charging. So let's take a closer look at the cable and the power adapter, and then we'll run it through some tests to see what it can do. Now, like I said before, this cable is future-proofed, and what I meant by that is the fact that I don't think that there's anything out there that you can actually use this cable with to charge at a rate of 240 watts or transfer data speeds up to 120 gigabits a second. But when that technology is available, you won't need to hunt around for another cable or go out and buy another cable. You can just simply use your Adonis. So let's take a look at the cable itself. Comes in this really nice rubber protective pouch. And here's the cable. You can see it's a nice vibrant yellow, which makes it very easy to find, especially if it's in your bag or a book bag, something like that. It's also covered in this nice soft silicone material to keep the internals from getting damaged or frayed. It also uses aluminum ends, which is another reason why it stands the test of time, and it also feels nice and quality. And like I mentioned before, the other AOHI Lightning USB Type-C cable kit I was using, here is that one cable. And again, as you can see, it looks brand new, just like the Adonis cable does. Now, like I mentioned before, this cable does have support for dual 6K and 8K displays. It can display up to 3 4K screens at 144 Hertz each. Or you can do one 4K screen at 540 Hertz and one 8K at 165 Hertz. And as I said before, we're also going to be testing this cable out with the AOHI Magcube Pro, which can do 140 watts. It's got 2 USB Type-Cs and 1 USB Type-A connection. It's also yellow, just like the cable. Feels very solid. It's got some weight to it, and there you can see the 2 USB Type-Cs and the USB Type-A connection. It's got kind of like this textured material on the front. You can see it's got 140 watts total GAN, and each one of these USB Type-C connections can do 140 watts, but again, this is only a 140 watt total, so if you're going to be using a single USB Type-C, it's capable of doing 140 watts, but if you plug 2 things into it, it will separate that into, I think, about 65 watts per USB if you're using them both at the same time. The USB Type-A can also do 22.5 watts. It also has some folding prongs in the back here, which I absolutely love, because if you're going to be putting this in your bag, you don't want the little prongs to get caught or snagged on anything, and just very easily folds up into this little cube. Really nice. And if we look at this power adapter compared to Apple's MacBook Pro power adapter, that is also 140 watts, the Apple only has one USB Type-C port, and it's also pretty expensive. Whereas the AOHI Magcube Pro is a fraction of the price, it's got more functionality, smaller form factor, and it puts out the same amount of wattage. AOHI also says you can charge a MacBook Pro 16-inch to 56% in just 30 minutes with this charger, and it can maintain that 140 watt output for over an hour straight. And we're going to put that to the test with our MacBook Pro 16-inch, and we'll see if it's pretty accurate. This power adapter also uses AOHI CE 3.0 temperature control technology to keep the charger cool while charging so it doesn't overheat. It also has a little status LED at the top to let you know the charging speeds. Yellow is for fast charging, blue for standard charging, and green for trickle charging. Now for testing, we're going to be charging the MacBook Pro 16-inch from 0 to 56% with the Magcube Pro along with the Adonis cable to see how long that actually takes. And we're also going to be testing out the data transfer speeds of the Adonis cable along with my NVMe Thunderbolt 4 enclosure that can do up to 40 gigabits per second. There is also a Thunderbolt 5 enclosure that can do 80 gigabits per second, but it's fairly new and I don't have that yet. So as soon as I get it, I will do some testing. And finally, we're going to be testing out the video capabilities of the Adonis along with my Mac Studio M1 and my Mac Studio display. All right, so now we're going to test out the capabilities of the Magcube Pro. Now, AOHI states that this little charger can charge up a MacBook Pro 16-inch to about 56% in 30 minutes. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to use the Adonis cable along with the Magcube Pro. And I just want to show you that my MacBook is totally dead. See, it should display a little not charged, so I'll plug in the Magcube really quick just to kind of show you that, because it seems to be totally dead. Should see a little symbol come up in just a second, or it'll just start up the MacBook Pro and I'll show you that we are sitting at 0%. And if we look at the battery really quick, so the battery is at 1% now. So I'm going to unplug that just to show you that the MacBook Pro battery was totally dead until I just plugged it in. So I'm going to close this up, going to put it in front here. And I want to give you a baseline temperature for the Magcube, just so we can see what the temperature was at before we started charging, and then we'll see what the temperature ends up at after 30 minutes. So right now we're looking at about 67.8. Let's do the other side. 66. So it's about 66, 67 degrees when it has not been charging. So now I'm going to plug in, kind of show you guys this. I'm going to plug in the Magcube Pro here. It does show a little green LED status here that I believe should change to yellow to show fast charging. And we're going to plug this into our MacBook Pro, and I'm going to start the timer here so you guys can see that. Kind of move it off to there. Hit the camera a little bit. Okay. So we'll plug this in and we'll start our charging. So right now it is at 10:58 a.m. We started the charger. The MacBook just dinged to let me know that it is charging. And if you guys can see that the little status LED here has now changed to yellow. So it is fast charging. So we'll come back in 30 minutes and we'll see what the charge level is at of the MacBook Pro. So you guys can see the breathing yellow status LED light. All right, so it's been exactly 30 minutes. I'm going to unplug the cable here and we're going to test the temperature of the charger. So it's about 120 degrees. It just feels warm to me. It definitely doesn't feel that hot. Yeah, so about 120 degrees. And like I mentioned, it's warm. It's definitely not hot. It's not scalding. It just feels like a regular wireless, it just feels like a regular charger would after you just got done using it for about 30 minutes. So now we're going to look at my MacBook and we'll see what the charge is at. Excuse me while I put in my password again. All right, let's take a look at the battery. And we're at 42%. So it's a little off. It may be because this is an older MacBook Pro. This is, I believe it's the 2021 version. It does have the M1 Max chip in it. So maybe they were doing their testing with some of the more efficient, newer MacBook Pros. But again, like I mentioned, this is sitting at 42% here. I still don't think that this is a bad thing. It's going to charge your MacBook Pro consistently, and it shouldn't take too much longer to charge to at least 80%. So based on this, if we're at 42% right now, maybe another 30 minutes we'll be at 84%. Definitely not a bad deal at all. So now I'm going to show you that you can charge 3 devices at the same time with this power adapter, and we're also going to see what the wattage is like with different devices connected up. So I will be using this flashlight here for the USB Type A, which is outputting about 22.5 watts, and my Galaxy S24 Ultra connected up as well. I'm also going to be using this power bank to show you what the wattage fluctuation is like. So I do have the Adonis cable as well as AOHI's other USB Type-C lightning cable set that I told you I've been using. So I'm going to plug this into the power bank, and we should again see it charge up to about 135 watts. Okay, so we're at 134 watts. I'm going to connect the flashlight. We'll see if the wattage changes. So it's ramping back up here. And now it looks like since we've connected the flashlight, we're sitting at about 97 watts in. So now I'm going to plug in my Galaxy S24 Ultra and we'll see what the wattage change there. So it is super fast charging. And now the wattage has changed to 64 watts for one of the USB Type-Cs. We have the Galaxy S24 Ultra, super fast charging, and then we have the flashlight charging on the other USB Type-A. So still not too bad. Like I mentioned, it's a max of 140 watts, so it kind of has to redistribute the power based on what device you have connected to it. But as you can see, it is clearly charging 3 devices all at the same time. And it's also fast charging. We can see that the little status LED at the top here is breathing yellow to let you know that it is fast charging. And I'll turn off the lights really quick so you guys can see that a little better. So as you can see, it is breathing yellow. And again, that's to let you know it is fast charging. So we'll switch this up a little bit. So as you can see, again, we're up to 136 watts. I'll plug in my MacBook Pro. We'll see what the wattage changes to. You can see the little status LED is now on yellow to let you know that it is fast charging. And we're immediately down to 64 watts on the power bank. So, like I mentioned before, if you have only 2 of the USB Type-Cs connected on the power adapter, it's going to split that to about 65, and that's what we're seeing here. So we should be getting 65 watts for the MacBook Pro as well as the power bank, which we are, and I'll plug in the light here, and we'll see what that wattage changes to, if at all. And it doesn't seem like it changed the wattage one bit. So that USB Type-A port doesn't really seem to affect when you do have your USB Type-C's split like we have it here. And then one more test, I'll unplug the light and we'll plug in one of my phones to see what that does, if anything. So again, I'll use my Galaxy device because it is capable of super fast charging. So it does look like it is regular charging on the Galaxy device, and it has not changed the wattage for the power bank, which tells me it's probably distributing about 65 watts for the MacBook Pro as well as the power bank, and the phone is getting probably around 10 watts, maybe a little bit less. So now I'm going to show you what charging looks like with the Adonis cable. Now, like I mentioned before, you can do up to 240 watts with this cable, but I don't have any devices that are capable of inputting or outputting 240 watts. The most that I have is about 140, and like I mentioned before, that's just future proofing. So when batteries and things come out, where you can actually charge them up at a rate of 240 watts, you will still be able to use this cable. So here I have the AOHI Starship power bank. I also have another power bank right here that can input about 140 watts. So I'm going to at least be able to show you can do 140 watts with this cable. So we'll plug this in to the power bank. And if we take a look here, it's a little dark, you can't really see, but if we look over here at this power bank, you can see that it's doing about 136 watts in. 140 watts is about how much larger devices use to charge up, such as my MacBook Pro. So you can be rest assured, if you grab this cable, you're going to be getting the most wattage possible to charge your device. And you can still see that it's still at 137 watts. All right, so again, to test out our transfer speeds, I'm going to use this NVMe enclosure that's capable of doing 40 gigabits per second. Now, even though the Adonis cable is capable of doing up to 120 gigabyte speeds, I'm not going to be able to test that out because, again, I don't have anything that goes up to that speed, and I'm sure that everybody out there doesn't either. So this is the fastest thing that I can use to show you that it can at least do the 40 gigabits per second. Of course, there's the Thunderbolt 5 that can do 80, but again, that's a fairly new technology, and I don't have an enclosure that can do that kind of speed. So we're going to test out the Adonis with the enclosure that I've got. So we'll plug this into my MacBook Pro, and we'll plug this into our drive. You'll see all the lights light up to let you know we are getting the full 40 gigabit per second speed. It just showed up in my MacBook Pro. So we'll do a speed test here. So I'll select the drive. It is already selected, and we'll start the speed test. And as you can see, we're consistently getting around 2352 for the write and 2533 for the read. And as you can see, it's moving really quick. And like I mentioned before, because this cable can do up to 120 gigabits per second speeds, the fastest that we have now is the Thunderbolt 5, which can do 80 gigabits per second. So you can see how much further into the future you're going to still be able to use this cable when those devices that you can utilize those speeds actually come out. All right, so let's plug in the Adonis into my studio display. Then we'll plug the other end of the Adonis cable into my MacBook Pro 16-inch to show you that it does support video. It'll just take a few seconds to come up. And as you can see, it's now extended the display over to the studio display. And if we select it on our screen here, we can also make that our main display. And as you can see, it is super clear, looks great. So not only can you use your MacBook Pro screen, but you can also use your studio display as well, or any other display that uses USB Type-C. And just in case you're wondering, the studio display is only 60 Hertz. It's not 120 like the MacBook Pro is, so it doesn't display anything for the refresh rate. Now, in addition to using your laptop with the Adonis to display video on something, you can also connect this up to your phone. So if you have something like an iPhone that uses USB Type-C, you can also plug it into that device. And that'll show up right on your screen as well. Super smooth, and it's super sharp. Comes in really good. So if you want to watch Netflix or show pictures or something like that, you can also do that too. When you have it in YouTube, you can rotate the display and it'll show whatever you're playing on your phone in the landscape mode. And in addition to iOS, you can also use it with your Android device. I've got my Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra here, and when you plug in the Adonis into that, it should open up Samsung Deck so you can use your phone like a portable PC. You can turn on using your phone like a touchpad, and it works really well. Nice and clear, nice and smooth. So you always have a PC at your fingertips. Then we'll plug in the Adonis into my Mac Studio again to show you that it does support a video out using a Mac Studio with the studio display as well. And there, as you can see, the Mac Studio is connected to my studio display using the Adonis cable. So if I unplug this cable, it'll turn off the display. So we'll just plug this back in. And again, the screen looks absolutely amazing. So if we go down here to our settings, open up our settings, go to displays. You can see that it is connected. We'll make it our main display. And again, like I mentioned before, the studio display only does 60 Hertz, so it's not going to display any refresh rate options, unlike my Odyssey does. So you can change it for the default or to scaled. And if we take a look at the display here, you can see that the studio display can do 5120 by 2880. So again, like I mentioned, you can use this cable for pretty much everything. And if you need it to display video from your Mac Studio to any monitor that has USB Type-C capabilities, you can use it. And because it is future-proofed, it can do up to 8K in the future. So another test I'll show you is using my MacBook Pro with the Adonis cable. We're going to be plugging it in to this 55-inch touchscreen using the USB Type-C port, and I'll show you that it can display in 4K. So here we have our display details. I'll switch over to PC monitor, and if we hover over the details, you can see that it is displaying in 3840 by 2160 if I simply click on it. And it just made everything super small. So it is now showing in 4K. And the coolest thing about having the touchscreen is it actually works with my MacBook Pro. It's pretty cool. And also this display is only 60 Hertz. I can't do any more, but I can do less. But like I mentioned before, the cable is capable of doing around 540 Hertz at 4K. So after all my testing, I definitely think that the Adonis cable performed really well. And even though we weren't able to fully test out all of its capabilities, it did everything that we needed it to do with the technology that we have right now. And because of that, it is future proofed. And if you're going to need to use this cable in the future for video connections, charging, things that are up to 240 watts, you will able to still do that with this one cable. And you won't again need to go out and purchase another one. And then for the Magcube Pro, I definitely still feel that it is a quality product. It gives you 3 ports for charging. And the fact that it wasn't able to charge my MacBook Pro 16-inch to 56% in 30 minutes exactly, that's definitely not a deal breaker for me. And like I mentioned before, I'm not sure which version of the MacBook Pro AOHI was using for their testing. It was probably one of the newer MacBooks that are more efficient. But with the 2021 model that I had with the M1 Max chip, it was only able to charge to 42% in 30 minutes. You're also not spending $100 on an Apple charger that only has a 1 USB Type-C port. You're spending about $20 less. You get more functionality and a smaller footprint. But I'm really curious to know what you guys think about this charger and what features you care about the most. Do you care that it can charge your MacBook Pro to 42% in 30 minutes? Do you care more about that it has more ports? Or do you care about the size? Let me know in the comments below. So if you guys want to pick either one of these up, the Adonis cable is on Indiegogo right now, and it's also most likely on sale for their introductory price. So if you do want to pick it up, I would probably pick it up right now. And their Magcube charger is on sale right now directly from AOHI. Again, it's on sale for about $80. I also want to give a huge thank you to AOHI for sending these both out to me so I could do this review for you guys. So if you guys enjoyed the video, it would really help out the channel if you gave me a thumbs up and consider subscribing. Thank you all for watching. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.